Good evening, one and all. We welcome you to the international webinar series on holistic health, well-being and sustainable development 2022, commemorating Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, nation celebrating 75 years of independence, and United Nations Sustainable Development Goals 2015 to 2030 as part of awareness and campaigns in collaboration with Sri Holistic Health Foundation India and Sri Research Institute Center for Art, Sciences and Wellbeing. Before we start our sessions, let's take the blessings of Almighty.
कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शत्रुबुद्धिविनाशाय दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तुते दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तुते शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः
With the blessings of Almighty, we shall continue to today's session. Today, we are commemorating an important day, that is Mathematics Day, celebrates the birth anniversary of India's famed mathematician Srinivas Ramanujan. And apart from that, we have other commemorations in the West, especially from US, National Short Person Day and National Cookie Exchange Day and Forefathers Day. National Date Nut Bread Day. And many others. Today, is also Guru Gobind Singh's birthday, which is very much prominent for Sikhism and Sikhs, and various other commemorations. We'll see based on that time we will commemorate the occasions accordingly. So first we will start with National Mathematics Day. I hope with the movie, I think everyone is aware of Sri Ramanuja, at least the common public or those who are not into academic or discipline or profession. but though he is quite popular even before that, but with that movie, at least many has come to know about our Ramanujan. So we'll just watch a trailer of that movie. Actually, today we thought of watching entire movie with you all, but I don't know how far it is feasible because it will take 2 hours. So I don't know how far you will be able to stay with me for 2 hours. So I thought, okay, let's have small trailer at least, because the entire thing we can also cover it in brief, but watching a movie together, and also we had a series which was planned, but due to preoccupied other things, we did not take that. You know, it's our sustainable development perspective of movies and media. That is also pending, but we will take it up soon. In maybe if not this year, but next year from January, we will try to start on that also. That new series anyway, because I am also getting into that profession, into more or less a kind of full-time or a part-time, venturing into a new discipline as such. So though it is not new for me, but a kind of serious discipline. So we will see where we will work on those lines also. It will provide a very good opportunity for many others. So let's watch a small trailer and then we will move on to is from the movie, which was created on Srinivasa Ramanujan, the man who knew infinity. He is the greatest mathematician in the planet. In fact, that proves that not only our ancient sages, if our Indians can put a little more effort, because we have been guiding the entire universe, and because this is the karma bhumi, Veda bhumi we call, and we have genius because we all belong to those sages, and our ancestors are from this Vedic period. And if we can get in line or aligned with our own tradition and culture, and if we can work on it, then we can create wonders. So he is just one example among many others. So let's watch it and enjoy. This is an official trailer.
What do you see?
Sand.
Imagine if we could look so closely, we could see each grain, each particle. There are patterns in everything.
Are you Ramanujan by chance? Oh. Don't be intimidated. Great knowledge comes from the humblest of origins.
I'm here to publish. The letter only contained a small sampling of my discoveries.
This will take a lifetime.
Maybe two.
Integrals, infinite series.
I've never seen anything like them. How did you know that theorem?
It came to me.
You don't pull a stunt like that in my class.
Now get out! These steps you want, I do not know how to do.
Where do you think you're going? This is our home.
Don't you know what I've given up to be here? I have nothing. You wanted to know how I get my ideas. God speaks to me.
There are no proofs. We're just supposed to take him at his word? No, you're to take him at mine.
I owe you so much.
No. It's I who owe you.
There are no proofs that can determine the outcome in matters of the heart. We are merely explorers of infinity in the pursuit of absolute perfection.
Have become a whole new person.
So maybe you have got some bits and pieces of what the movie is all about. Yeah. So December 22 celebrates the birth anniversary of India's famed mathematician Srinivasa Ramanujan. Ramanujan genius has been regarded as a mathematician to be on the same level as Euler and Jacobi from the 18th, 19th centuries in the West. But we don't believe that comparison is, he was always above them, though it was only compared to this thing. But, he has given so many things and he has unfolded many problems in such a way that no one stands near him. Since 2012, India's National Mathematics Day is recognized on December 22 annually, with numerous educational events held at schools and universities throughout the country. In 2017, the day's significance was enhanced by opening of the Ramanujan Math Park in Kuppam in Chittoor, Andhra Pradesh. So mathematic lovers like Sri Ramanujan are all around the world, and some even support others, enhance knowledge on the subject. And Srinivasa Ramanujan is a brilliant mathematician behind the inspiration for Mathematics Day in India, whose works influenced many across the country and the world. Ramanujan was born in 1887 in Erode, Tamil Nadu, to an Iyengar Brahmin family. At age 12, despite lacking a formal education, he excelled at trigonometry and developed many theorems for himself. After finishing secondary school in 1904, Ramanujan became eligible for the scholarship to study at the Government Arts College, Kumbakonam, but could not secure it since he did not excel in other subjects. At the age of 14, Ramanujan ran away from home and enrolled at the Pachiyappa's College in Madras, where he too only excelled in mathematics without managing the same in other subjects, and was unable to finish with a Fellow of Arts degree. Living in dire poverty, Ramanujan instead pursued independent research in mathematics. Soon, the budding mathematician was noticed in Chennai mathematics circles. In 1912, Ramaswamy Iyer, founder of the Indian Mathematical Society, helped him to get a clerk position at the Madras Port Trust. Ramanujan then began sending his work to British mathematicians, receiving a breakthrough in 1913 when Cambridge-based G.H. Hardy called him to London after being impressed by Ramanujan's theorems. Ramanujan made his way to Britain in 1914, where Hardy got him into Trinity College, Cambridge. In 1917, Ramanujan was well on his way to success after being elected to be a member of the London Mathematical Society, and he also became a Fellow of the Royal Society in 1918. one of the youngest to achieve the esteemed position. Ramanujan returned to India in 1919 because he could not get accustomed to the diet in Britain and his health continued to deteriorate, and died in 1920 at the age of 32. However, his achievements in the field of mathematics are still highly regarded across the globe. Ramanujan left behind 3 notebooks with pages containing unpublished results, which mathematics continued to work on for years to come. So much so that in 2012, former Prime Minister of India, Manmohan Singh, declared December 22nd, the day of Ramanuja's birthday, as National Mathematics Day to be celebrated across the country. So Ramanujan was born in Erode, Tamil Nadu to an Iyengar Brahmin family, growing up in the poverty and later becoming a brilliant mathematician who left an indelible mark on the field in 1887. Ramanuja was born. And in 1918, Ramanujan becomes one of the youngest people in the history to receive a Fellow of Royal Society shortly after being elected to be a member of the London Mathematical Society in Britain in 1980. And former Prime Minister of India, Manmohan Singh, declares December 22, the day of Ramanuja's birth, as National Mathematics Day to celebrate Ramanuja's achievements. So 2019, the Royal Society honors Ramanujan, the prestigious Royal Society, the United Kingdom's National Academy of Sciences, tweets a special message in the honor of the fellow. There are many ways to celebrate Mathematics Day, not just in India, but around the world. In India, NASI celebrates National Mathematics Day by conducting a workshop in application of mathematics and Ramanujan. The workshop is attended by popular lecturers and experts in the field of mathematics from across the country. Speakers at the national and international level discuss Sri Ramanujan's contribution to the mathematics. As already mentioned, great sages have given vast knowledge to the world, to the entire planet. Aryabhatta, or Aryabhatta I, was the first of the major mathematician astronomers from classical age of Indian mathematics and Indian astronomy. His works include the Aryabhatiyam, which mentions that in 3600 Kali Yuga, 499 CE, he was 23 years old, and the Arya Siddhanta. So the International Day of Mathematics is also a worldwide celebration. Each year on March 14th, all countries are invited to participate through activities for both students and the general public in schools, museums, libraries, and other spaces, along with National Mathematics Day, that is December 22 today. So today you can just read, there are many ways to commemorate or celebrate this day. Srinivasa Ramanujan's earliest stories began around the age of 12, mastering the dizzying logic of trigonometry and developing theorems on his own without any assistance. While not everyone feels the need to celebrate mathematics, it's still an important subject. Why not learning the concept of trigonometry yourself or read up about it? It's actually one of the most important branches of mathematics and is something that every student should focus on. Great trigonometry skills allow students to work out complex angles and dimensions in relatively little time. So watch movie about Ramanujan, the brilliant mathematician, inspired the field of mathematics and many students across India. If you don't know much about him. You can watch his incredible story of the success from the comfort of your homes or your offices, wherever you are. Consider watching The Man Who Knew Infinity, starring Dev Patel. It is a great biopic of Ramanujan's inspiring journey. And encourage others' student strengths. If there is one important factor to take away from Srinivas Ramanujan's amazing story and success in the field of mathematics, it's that he persevered despite performing horrendously at other subjects such as English, philosophy, and Sanskrit. This shows that each student has their own strengths and weakness. And while it's always important to do our best and make sure to nurture and compliment a student who excels in a particular subject, who knows, maybe the compliment that compliment will nurture their will to perform better and even pursue their interest to amazing heights. So there are 8 fundamental trigonometric identities called fundamental identities. 3 of them are called Pythagorean identities, as they are based on the Pythagorean theorem. So these are the fundamental identities about trigonometry. And trigonometry emerged from the applications of geometry to astronomical studies in 3rd century BC as per the West and ancient calculation. But we know it since long back. And trigonometry is associated with music and plays a major role in musical theory and production. Sound waves travel in a repeating wave pattern, which can be represented graphically by sine and cosine functions. A single note can be modeled on a sine wave, and a chord can be modeled with multiple sine waves used in conjunction with one another. So mathematics as a music is a wonderful way. And the word trigonometry comes from the word triangle measure, and it is a meaning of trigonometry. And it was, if it was the 1700s and we knew trigonometry, would probably be a navigator on the ship. A good navigator can discover their location even in the middle of Atlantic Ocean with some trigonometry and a good clock. So trigonometry helps us to navigate. And we love mathematics. Of course, many hate mathematics also, because it's not as it is, but it is the way and the way it is taught and the way it is portrayed. Because always we keep, students or generally everyone keeps saying, oh, maths, it's a very complex subject, it's a very difficult subject. Even before getting into math subjects itself, there is a lot of, these kind of environment or these kind of attitudes that are prevalent in the society that creates an unknown fear or phobia on maths to the students. And, the teachers also, of course, not everyone is like that, but many teachers are also not that good in, explaining these mathematics and certain concepts, because that is a subject, though it's a very easy subject and also interesting subject and also enjoying subject. If you understand it, if you are able to understand it, it is a wonderful subject. You can play it like a music. But if you don't understand, then it's a gone case. So that's why recent, even board exams also, in certain board exams, maths is exempted. So even if you don't, you need not appear for maths exam. Even if you are appearing and fail also, you can take the exemption and you can get your degree of, you can get your, certificate awarded. So that need is felt because many students are failing in maths and they are not able to cope up. And because of that single subject, they are not able to move forward. So it is a great need and need of the hour. So what else can be done? Maybe we have to find innovative ways of teaching maths, because the problem still lies, as many students are finding it difficulty in solving these problems or learning maths and excelling in the subject. So maybe because it remains the same no matter what you do. So the only way to teach in a different way or in a better way, because maths can be taught in a number of ways. So we need to find some different ways where it can be simply made understood. Like especially we have Vedic maths where we have a lot of ways to understand many concepts. Again, it has to be complete in totality in itself, otherwise it will create a lot of gaps. So we need to ensure that it is properly taught, so that the fear or phobia or hatred towards maths by certain students or community can be reduced, minimized, or prevented for that matter. Because we use maths everywhere, though not so complex, but we need counting, we need estimation, we need prediction. For everything, we need a little bit of calculation, statistics. So maths is very important in life. And you can't deny it, whether you love it or hate it. Like history, you have no other choice to accept it. Whether you hate it, love it, deny it, accept it. History has to be accepted as it is. In a similar way, whether you love it or hate it, you can't deny mathematics in the order of the world. And without it, we would not be able to make much sense of it at all. Even the illiterates know the counting and all this. You remember, if we all remember, maybe the present generations don't remember this. We had this Peddabala Shiksha book. Even now also it is available. Earlier it was very small. Now it has also become very cumbersome. Because even in my house also I had that book where initially I also studied, and my grandparents, that was the initial book, that is like Bhagavad Gita for everyone. You have everything in it. If you master that Peddabala Shiksha book, then you can live happily without much difficulty. That means you are educated for survival. You can manage yourself, you can count, you can everything, whatever the minimum requirements are there, that is met. So such a great book, with very simple pages. But now, because things are changed and we added more, and it has also become a very good book. Good in the sense, good number of pages. But still it stands to be one of the most, now we got soft copies also as well. So now, because of there are different ways of teaching, now we are using these audio visual elements, animation, graphics to teach. So the way or mode of teaching has improved, and we are learning very complex concepts in a very simpler way, or in a very effective, or sensory, in such a way that our sensory modalities catch them, try to intercept and perceive them in a better way. But still those books are available. I think the ideal gift that anyone can give to any child is that book. The first book, in fact, that book has to be given. And that book every child has to read, in fact, though it is, that gives basic alphabets, numbers, and all those things, in fact. But the tradition is somewhere losing out. That's why we are having. We should never lose our own traditions and customs, and which are very good. and which needs to be, because when they are lost, we lose our identity. Tomorrow, if we question ourselves, who are we? We don't know our own ancestors. We don't know our own cultures and traditions. Tomorrow, our identity itself becomes questionable. Now, as already yesterday or day before yesterday, we are celebrating, we are commemorating, this Monkey Day. So our ancestors were monkeys and chimpanzees and apes. Whether we love it or whether we hate it, whether we accept it or whether we deny it, we have to, there is no other choice, because we all evolved from that species, right? So it needs to be accepted. That's all. There is no other choice. Similarly, certain things are there which stands even true today. And such things, such practices have to be. Today, we are in a world where Pokemon and other things, Superman or He-Man or what all that, Batman, are believed to be true. And, Ramayana, Sri Krishna are questioned. So with that simple example, we can understand how much propaganda, how much, with this lot of misinformation is fed into the brains of young children, and that is strongly, imbibed into the minds of even adults, that today we adults also are not able to differentiate what is real and what is factual, and what is imaginary, and what is real and what is not. Today, we also believe, we are many children, they are living in a false world. They are imagining that these cartoons, they are all created, these all are created characters which never exist in the world. But they are thinking that is real. And we know Panchatantra stories, those are real and which has happened. And, those are moral, ethical stories which give value-based stories which were told and which were carried out. And, lot of rhymes, traditional ancient rhymes. Now what we are teaching to our students, which are irrelevant, and there is no context also. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Who is Humpty? Who is Dumpty? No relevant, no context at all. And we are teaching such an education to our children, and we are happy as a parents that, oh, my child has learned. He is, learning so much nonsense, trash. Is there any relevant to our culture or tradition, to our, at least our geography or our demography? What kind of education we are giving to our own children? And we are happy as a parents by teaching all that nonsense, only because society thinks that, oh, if he or she as a child repeats that as a parrot, we don't appreciate as a child have become a mechanical parrot nowadays. They just want to repeat. They just want to mug it up and vomit in the exams and score 100 for 100. We are gone to such an extent that we no longer appreciate the natural and the true identities of us. We lost our own cultures and traditions. We forgot. We all have landed ourselves in identity crisis. We don't know who we are. And we are created by the society. We are living in a society where drinking alcohol is promoted, smoking is promoted. And without them, if you don't drink and if you don't smoke, you are not even considered a human being. And that kind of society we live, and what we can expect from such a society? Can you expect ethics? Can you expect values? Can you expect morals from such a society where there is no single use and alcohol and tobacco? It is killing so many people and it is causing not even a single benefit of using tobacco or alcohol. And that has become a society status or a class status today. From such a society, what you can expect? And that is a kind of society which is widely promoted across the world thanks to the Western cultures. And what can we expect from such a society? And we are proud of such societies, unfortunately. This is what happening with nowadays. So we should be very, conscious about what we are promoting ourselves and to our children. We need to go back to our traditions, cultures, because they are only the sustainable and they are stood across the space and time and still relevant today. Though certain things have emerged with that, certain things have become redundant or no longer appropriate. They are still valid, but because of the advancement of science and new things has come. But still, we keep suffering. Today, why so much of diseases, disorders, and other things are happening, are existing? Because we are not concentrating on the kind of lifestyle, the kind of food we are consuming, the kind of practices we are engaged. Especially the morning, the activities, routines, which are all were lost. Now we have moved to an entire gadget lifestyle and we are no longer having this mobility. Today, heart-related diseases are highly prevalent. And we see the most deaths caused on the planet is due to heart-related problems. Why? Because we have become lazy and we are consuming more fats. And our metabolic rate has also come to such a low rate, and we are consuming too much of calories, too much of fat, too much of junk. And all these are contributing, adding to our health issues. And we are not moving into sun. We are not sweating. We are always spending our time in AC rooms and we have become lazy. We are not moving. We are working. We are not doing any exercise. And a lot of these aspects which are creating a lot of problems. And more of cheese and butter nowadays. You see any restaurant, any dish, you see at least half of it is either cheese or butter. And where that will go? This is not a machine, or this is not a body where we can completely get that consume. So a lot of oil, lot of fats, which is good fats, and which is bad fats, or saturated fats, unsaturated fat. All these are adding to the complications and the health issues. And there is no work. Okay, there is no problem in consuming. You consume as much as you want, no problem. But there should be some way to spend it, right? Otherwise, it gets accumulated. What will happen if you go on accumulating without spending? So similar way, there is nothing wrong, in fact, consuming too much of anything, but you should also provide an outlet. When you are providing an inlet and input, you should also provide an output after processing it. But what is happening? More of inputs and less of output. So it is getting accumulated and it is turning into toxins and fats and a lot more, creating a problem. and becoming obese, and these veins and arteries are getting choked with these fat accumulations and other deposits. Today, that's why, and air is also polluted, lot of pollution, and we are paying for it. So all these are involve also calculation. That's where you can see mathematics is useful in every sphere of it. Whether you take in, though it is not so significant, but for research purpose, even in medicine, you take any subject for that matter, maths is there in some form or other. But we can always have those simple basics so that we don't need, exactly, we are not going to become a math scientist or a researcher. But no matter, we can't deny mathematics is the order of the world, and without it, we wouldn't not able to make such sense of it. So mathematics is a methodological application of matter, makes our life orderly and prevents chaos. Certain qualities that are nurtured by mathematics are the power of reasoning, creativity, abstract or spatial thinking, critical thinking, problem-solving ability, and even more effective communication skills. A day to celebrate this field is a day worth celebrating. And it inspires us to educate ourselves, as today, Mathematics Day is all about celebrating and recognizing the brilliant mathematician, Srinivas Ramanujan, who taught himself mathematics more after dropping out of college due to not excelling in other subjects. Without a formal degree, Ramanujan pursued research in mathematics on his own, and living in stark poverty on the brink of starvation, his hard work and passion helped him become one of the most recognized mathematicians today, regardless of his bleak circumstances. See, he was in extreme poverty and he was thrown out of college because he was not performing well in other subjects. To pass or to get promoted from one section or one class to other, you need to pass other subjects also. At least you need to get a minimum score, passing mark. So even that could not happen with him. So he was very much obsessed and he was very much concentrated in maths, and he was excelling in maths, the only subject. But his hard work and passion helped him become one of the most recognized, regardless of his bleak circumstances. So hard work and a little bit of luck. And at the end of the day, again, that luck factor is there. Not everyone who works hard gets that, right? And if we can say that, then there are many people, especially who are working day and night 24/7. Not everyone is fortunate to get the same credit or same. And not everyone who has achieved a lot are hardworking. So at the end of the day, luck also matters. The grace of God or Almighty also matters. But it doesn't mean that God will do 100% and we'll sit and enjoy. It's never that way, remember. We have to do 99.9% and God is there to help us at 0.01%. But if you think that I will sit and God will do everything, then that will never work. Don't take it that way, right? We have to do everything, and God's grace is always that. And with that 0.01%, we can do wonders. That is where people, get it. Even if both are doing same work, that is what makes the difference, to get recognized, to get. So always that is there. You should not think that some magic or logic. People believe in all sorts of things now, stupid things for that matter. And, which is beyond science and which is beyond logic and which is beyond rational. There are certain things which are even beyond our understanding, our scope of understanding. So we have to accept them as it is. Our ancestors are not fools. No, they have experienced it, and they have testified it, and they have recorded it, and since ages they have given this valuable traditions and customs to us. So we have to question them, we have to see them if they are still appropriate or not, and accordingly we have to follow them. Okay, some things may be not appropriate because of alternatives have been developed. Like earlier we used to use this, cow dung or buffalo's dung to sprinkle around the home, so that it also prevents the insects. But now that we have insecticides, pesticides, even organic, chemical, inorganic, everything, so it may not be so relevant today. So such practices we should understand. Basically, the first thing here is to understand why such a practice has come in the very first place. And maybe because over the time things are evolving, so we are coming with new things, we are coming with more facilities. So those things are becoming redundant, because now there are hardly independent houses, and we hardly live at the ground level. We have elevated buildings constructed. So there is, otherwise these insects or creepers or other creatures, or, water coming inside or anything. Certain things are there, logical things, which we need to think over, because over time we have developed these drainage systems, sewerage systems, water, these inlets and outlets have developed. So it may have become inappropriate nowadays. The two, again, still now in cities it may be, but in rural areas where still they are which are inaccessible, or which they haven't even seen the day of the light, for them it is still appropriate. So we have to think in a proper way, we have to analyze, and we have to understand. Such practices we can give away because we have a better facility today, and we have alternatives for that. So that is fine. So that we cannot say that even if we are today using that, especially, so that is still a symbolic way. Today we are wearing tattoos or symbols, or what all stupid symbols on our body. And does that hold any symbols, and we are proudly displaying them? Does that have any significance? That does have any value? And if we wear some tilak or we put some vernal on, and there is a lot of fuzz. See how this narcissistic tendency of people. And if you can accept a tattoo which has no meaning at all, no sense at all, some scribbling on your body, why can't you accept some symbol, at least as a tattoo? Or at least some artwork on body? This is a kind of attitude that people have to develop. That's why people are different in different ways. So all at convenience and comfort. So when you can accept that, why you can't accept this? So these are different kind of things. We need to retrospect ourselves. We need to think about ourselves. So we are not that good people, in fact. If we are really good, then why something should bother us in the very first place? For that, any symbol, even maths has many symbols, right? Even certain symbols can be used in any context. We should see that symbol as a symbol, and we should not attach any significance. Maybe there might be already having some significance established. But if you don't believe it, it's okay, fine. Accept it as a symbol. What's wrong with it? Why you are making fuss about it? And some symbols are acceptable to some people and some are not. Again, there is a hidden agenda behind that. So all these are there, because everything should start within us. The change of behavior, change of attitude, change of perception. How do we view ourselves, our world around us, makes a lot of difference. So similarly, mathematics also is such a subject that, we should not create a fear or phobia before, learning it. Let the child go, learn it, and let he himself or herself decide. And if one method or one system is not appropriate, or she is not able to understand, try to use different method in such a way that the child gets interest in it, tries to understand and adapt it or solve it, or try innovative ways. Even after many ways it is not possible, okay, leave it, no problem. We have other chapters or other problems to be solved. There is always a choice. Okay. So never, pull down yourself because you are poor or you belong to that community or you don't have resources. Always there is something to complain. If we have the will, we have the way, and we will work on it. Otherwise, we'll always keep finding excuses. Either one thing or the other thing is not there. In fact, if everything on the planet is also provided to you, you will have something or the other thing, other excuse to do. Every one of us. No one is an exemption. So we'll still keep complaining that is not there, this is not there. Of course, nothing will be, all the resources are limited only. There is nothing unlimited. Even for that matter, we live for a short time. We don't know the next moment I will be alive or not, or you will be alive or not. Nothing is taken for granted. And what happens suddenly? Something happens to me. Or something happens to someone. That's all, the end of the chapter. But world will not stand still. It will continue. As if there was no difference at all. Maybe those who are closely related to them, certain things may affect for some time, but things keep moving. So even we can be replaceable. We should understand that fact, So everything changes for the better. So do not get struck up with the problems. Take positively, keep moving. Don't take anything for granted. And also don't take everything to heart or head. Things keep changing. People also keep changing. And depending on the opportunities and depending on the situations or circumstances, context, people have their own kind of judgments or decisions that they make for their own benefit in the first place. So it's okay, even though we accept it or reject it. We have no choice, or we have very little choice. Either stay with them or live with them, or just stay away from, or ignore them and move ahead. So in spite of all his odds, his hard work and passion helped him because of one of the most recognized mathematician today, regardless of his bleak circumstances. Hard work, a little bit of luck really can lead us to fulfill our dreams. That is what we have to We have to be very committed, dedicated, have patience and perseverance to make it happen. There will be a lot of disappointments. And if you have seen all the success people, they have a lot of disappointments, failures in them. Very few are born lucky, very fortunate. But most of them have struggled and came from a grassroots level. They have seen a lot of hardships. It's not easy success unless and until you are very fortunate and your family has provided everything that you need not do anything for yourself. That is what unfortunately the present generation parents are trying to do, and they don't know the hardships of acquiring things, and they doesn't know the value of things because they don't know the hardship that is required to acquire such resources or things. And they spend, and they even don't care of, they don't know the value of life. And we have seen many rich people, those who lost the property or their own children, and for whom the entire property is now, what they will do. So always there is righteous thing that has to be done in the right time, at the right place, to the right person. This is very important. Of course, don't think that whether you believe in God or not, whether you believe in karma or not, there is always something that is observing us, that is keeping record of our acts, and everything comes back to us. So we have to be always conscious. If no one is watching, we ourselves are watching, and we know what is good and what is bad. And we should never do anything which, we feel that it shouldn't be done to us, especially. So that will prevent a lot of. So obviously mathematicians and scientists rely on mathematical principles to do the basic aspects of their work, such as test hypothesis. While scientific carriers famously involve math, they are not only carriers to do. Even operating a cash register requires one understand the basic arithmetic. And people working in a factory must be able to do mental arithmetic to keep track of the parts on the assembly line, and must, in some cases, manipulate fabrication software utilizing geometric properties to build their products. And any job requires math because you must know how to interpret and your paycheck and balance your budget. Though not so complex, but at least minimum maths is required. So, in spite of not receiving a formal education in mathematics, Srinivas Ramanujan has contributed a lot, and his contributions provided in-depth analysis to solve complex mathematical problems using new concepts and ideas. And he is known popularly, fondly, as a man who knew infinity. And he had made several significant contributions. Like he has made diverse contributions to the theory of numbers and mathematical functions. He conceived of divergent series, the Riemann series, the hypergeometric series, the elliptic integrals, and the functional equations of the zeta function. The number 1729 is known as the Hardy-Ramanujan number. So, what is this Hardy-Ramanujan number? Also known as Ramanujan number, is a number that has special significance. In maths, due to its unique properties, it is named after the mathematicians G.H. Hardy and Srinivas Ramanujan, who were both influential figures in the field of mathematics. The Hardy-Ramanujan number is the smallest number that can be expressed as the sum of two cubes in different ways. 1729. As already mentioned, and he had made a substantial contributions to mathematical analysis, number theory, infinite series, and continued fractions, including solutions to mathematical problems, which were then considered unsolvable. So initially, he tried to interest the leading professional mathematicians in his work, but failed for the most. But what he had to show them was too novel, too unfamiliar, and additionally presented in unusual ways, so they could not be bothered. Seeking mathematicians who could better understand his work, in 1913, he began as a postal correspondence with the English mathematician G.H. Hardy at the University of Cambridge, England. Recognizing Ramanujan's works as extraordinary, Hardy arranged him to travel to Cambridge, and his notes Hardy commented that Ramanujan had produced groundbreaking new theorems, including that some defeated me completely. I had never seen anything in this least like this before, and some recently proven but highly advanced results. During his short life, Ramanujan independently compiled near 3,900 results and more, mostly identities and equations. Many were completely novel, new, and his original and highly unconventional results, such as Ramanujan prime, the Ramanujan theta function, partition formulae, and Mach theta functions have opened entire new areas of work and inspired a vast amount of further research. Of his thousands of results, all but a dozen or two have now been proved correct, because a lot of further research is going on, because he left many things unsolved, and some research work which is still other mathematicians are working on it. The Ramanuja Journal, a scientific journal, was established to publish work in all areas of mathematics influenced by Ramanujan, and his notebooks contain summaries of published and unpublished results. They have been analyzed and studied for decades since his death as a source of new mathematical ideas. As late as 2012, researchers continued to discover that mere comments in his writings about simple properties and simple outputs for certain findings were themselves profound and subtle number theory results that remained unsuspected until nearly a century after his death. He became one of the youngest fellows of the Royal Society and only the second Indian member and first Indian to be elected a fellow of Trinity College, Cambridge. Of his original letters, Hardy stated that a single look was enough to show they could have been written only by a mathematician of the highest caliber, comparing Ramanujan to the mathematical geniuses such as Euler and Jacobi. And finally, in 1919, ill health, now believed to have been hepatic amoebiasis, is a complication from episodes of dysentery many years previously compelled Ramanujan's return to India, where he died in 1920 at the age of 32. And his last letters to Hardy, written in January 1920, show that he was still continuing to produce new mathematical ideas and theorems. His lost notebook, containing discoveries from the last year of his life, caused great excitement among mathematicians when it was rediscovered in 1976. A deeply religious Hindu, Ramanujan credited his substantial mathematical capacities to divinity and said his family goddess Namagiri Tayar revealed his mathematical knowledge to him. So he once said, an equation for me has no meaning unless it expresses a thought of God. So always we have to be connecting back to our roots. You can find, when you visit Tree Road, you can find the Ramanujan's birthplace on 18th Alleri Street, Tree Road, even now in Tamil Nadu. If you happen to visit that place, do visit. And he is born in, you can also visit Ramanujan home on Sarangapani Sannidhi Street in Kumbakona. Ramanujan literally means younger brother of Rama. And we know everyone, no need of explaining, or everyone knows about Lord Rama, a Hindu deity. And his father, Kuppuswamy Srinivas Iyengar, originally from Tanjavur district, worked as a clerk in a sari shop. And his mother, Komalata Ammal, was a housewife and sang at a local temple. They lived in a small traditional home on Sarangapani Sannidhi Street in the town of Kumbakona. The family home is now a museum. When Ramanujan was a year and a half old, his mother gave birth to a son, Sadagopan, who died less than 3 months later. So in December 1889, Ramanujan contracted smallpox but recovered, unlike the 4,000 others who died in a bad year in the Tanjavur district around the same time. So he moved with his mother to her parents' house in Kanchipuram near Madras, now called as Chennai. And his mother gave birth to 2 more children in 1891 and 1894, both of whom died before their first birthdays. On 1st October 1892, Ramanujan was enrolled at a local school after his maternal grandfather lost his job as a court official in Kanchipuram. Ramanujan and his mother moved back to Kumbakonam, and he was enrolled in Kangayan Primary School. When his paternal grandfather died, he was sent back to his maternal grandparents, then living in Madras. So he did not like school in Madras and tried to avoid attending. And his family enlisted a local constable to make sure he attended school. So within 6 months, Ramanujan was back in Kumbakonam. So since Ramanujan's father was at work most of the day, his mother took care of the boy, and they had a close relationship. From her, he learned about tradition and Puranas, to sing religious songs, to attend pujas at temple, and to maintain particular eating habits, all of Brahmin culture. At Kangayan Primary School, Ramanujan performed well. Just before turning 10 in November 1897, he passed his primary examination in English, Tamil, Geography, and Arithmetic with the best scores in the district. That year, Ramanujan entered Town Higher Secondary School, where he encountered formal mathematics for the first time. A child prodigy, by age 11, he had exhausted the mathematical knowledge of 2 college students who were lodgers at his home, and he was later lent a book written by S.L. Loney on advanced trigonometry. He mastered this by the age of 13 while discovering sophisticated theorems on his own. By 14, he received merit certificates and academic awards that continued throughout his school career. And he assisted the school in the logistics of assigning its 1,200 students, each with different needs, to its approximately 35 teachers. He completed mathematical exams in half the allotted time and showed a familiarity with geometry and infinite series. Ramanujan was shown how to solve cubic equations in 1902. He would later develop his own method to solve quartic. In 1903, he tried to solve the quintic, not knowing that it was impossible to solve with radicals. In 1903, when he was 16, Ramanujan obtained from a friend a library copy of a synopsis of elementary results in pure and applied mathematics, G.S. Carr's collection of 5,000 theorems. Ramanujan reportedly studied the contents of the book in detail. The next year, Ramanujan independently developed and investigated the Bernoulli numbers and calculated the Euler-Mascheroni constant up to 15 decimal places. So his peers at that time said they rarely understood him and stood in peaceful awe of him. So when he graduated from Town Higher Secondary School in 1904, Ramanujan was awarded the K. Ranganatha Rao Prize for Mathematics by the school's headmaster, Krishnaswamy Iyer. Iyer introduced Ramanujan as an outstanding student who deserved scores higher than the maximum. He received a scholarship to study at Government Arts College, Kumbakonam, but was so intent on the mathematics that he could not focus on any other subjects and failed most of them, losing his scholarship in the process. In August 1905, Ramanujan ran away from home, heading towards Vishakhapatnam, and stayed in Rajahmundry for about a month. He later enrolled at Pachayappa's College in Madras. There he passed in the mathematics, choosing only to attempt questions that appealed to him and leaving the rest unanswered, but performed poorly in other subjects such as English, physiology, and Sanskrit. And Ramanujan failed his Fellow of Arts exam in December 1906, and again later, without an FA degree, he left college and continued to pursue independent research in mathematics, living in extreme poverty and often on the brink of starvation. So in 1910, after a meeting between 23-year-old Ramanujan and the founder of Indian Mathematics Society, V. Ramaswamy Iyer, Ramanujan began to get recognition in Madras mathematical circles, leading to his inclusion as a researcher at University of Madras. On 14th July 1909, Ramanujan married Janaki Ammal, a girl his mother had selected for him a year earlier, who was 10 years old when they married. It was not unusual then for marriages to be arranged with girls at a young age. That was widely prevalent at those times. And Janaki was from Rajendram, a village close to Maddur, Karur district railway station. And Ramanujan's father did not participate in the marriage ceremony. As was common at that time, Janaki continued to stay at maternal home for 3 years after marriage until she reached puberty. In 1912, she and Ramanujan's mother joined Ramanujan in Madras. So after the marriage, Ramanujan developed a hydrocele testis. This condition could be treated with a routine surgical operation that would release the blocked fluid in the sacroiliac sac. But his family could not afford the operation. And in January 1910, a doctor volunteered to do the surgery at no cost. After his successful surgery, Ramanujan searched for a job, stayed at a friend's house while he went from door to door around Madras looking for clerical position. To make money, he tutored students at Presidency College who were preparing for their Fellow of Arts exam. In late 1910, Ramanujan was sick again. He feared for his health, and told his friend R. Radhakrishnan Iyer to hand his notebooks over to Professor Singarvelu Mudaliyar, the mathematics professor of Pachiyappa's College, or to the British professor Edward B. Ross of the Madras Christian College. After Ramanujan recovered and retrieved his notebooks from Iyer, he took a train from Kumbakonam to Villupuram, a city. In 1912, Ramanujan moved with his wife and mother to a house in Saiva Mudali Street, Georgetown, Madras, where they lived for a few months. In May 1913, upon securing a research position at Madras University, Ramanujan moved with his family to Triplicate. In 1910, Ramanujan met with Deputy Collector V. Ramaswamy Iyer, who founded the Indian Mathematical Society, wishing for a job at the Revenue Department where Iyer worked, and Ramanujan showed him his mathematic notebooks. As Iyer later recalled, I was struck by the extraordinary mathematical results contained in the notebooks. I had no mind to suitor his genius by an appointment in the lowest rungs of the Revenue Department. So Iyer sent Ramanujan with letters of introduction to his mathematician friends in Madras. Some of them looked at his work and gave him letters of introduction to Ramchandra Rao, the district collector for Nellore and the secretary of the Indian Mathematics Society. Rao was impressed by Ramanujan's research, but doubted that it was if it was his own work. Ramanujan mentioned a correspondence he had with Professor Saldana, a notable Bombay mathematician, in which Saldana expressed a lack of understanding of his work, but concluded that he was not a fraud. So Ramanujan's friend C.V. Rajagopalachari tried to quell Rao's doubts and Ramanujan's academic integrity. Rao agreed to give him another chance and listened as Ramanujan discussed elliptic integrals, hypergeometric series, and his theory of divergent series, which Rao said ultimately convinced him of Ramanujan's brilliance. When Rao asked him what he wanted, Ramanujan replied that he needed work and financial support. Rao consented and ultimately convinced him and sent him to Madras. He continued his research with Rao's financial and Iyer's help. Ramanujan had his work published in the Journal of Indian Mathematical Society, one of the first problems he posed in the journal. And he waited for the solution to be offered in 3 issues over 6 months, but failed to receive any. At the end, Ramanujan supplied an incomplete solution to the problem himself. On the page 105 of his first notebook, he formulated an equation that could be used to solve the infinitely nested radicals problem. Using the equation, the answer to the question posed in the journal was simply 3, obtained by setting x equal to 2, n equal to 1, and a equal to 0. So Ramanujan wrote his first journal paper for the journal on the properties of Bernoulli numbers. One property he discovered was the denominators sequence A027642 in the OEIS of the fractions of Bernoulli numbers are always divisible by 6. He also devised a method of calculating Bn based on the previous Bernoulli numbers. One of these methods where it was observed if n is even but not equal to 0, Bn is a fraction and the numerator of Bn by n is in its lowest numbers is a prime number. The denominator of a Bn contains each of the factors of 2 and 3 ones and only ones, and 2 to the power of n into 2 to the power of n minus 1. Bn by n is an integer, and 2 to the power of n minus 1. Bn consequently is an odd integer. In his 17-page paper, Some Properties of Bernoulli's Number, Ramanujan gave 3 proofs, 2 corollaries, and 3 conjectures. And his writing initially had many flaws, as journal editor M.T. Narayana Iyengar noted. So Mr. Ramanujan's methods were so terse and novel, and his presentation so lacking in clearness and precision, that the ordinary mathematical reader, unaccustomed to such intellectual gymnastics, could hardly follow him. So Ramanujan later wrote a paper and also continued to provide problems in the journal. So he simplified and also wrote on them. In early 1912, he got a temporary job in Madras Accountant General Office with a monthly salary of 20 rupees. He lasted only a few weeks. Toward the end of that assignment, he applied for a position as chief accountant of the Madras Port Trust. In a letter dated 9th February 1912, Ramanujan wrote, "Sir, I understand there is a clerkship vacant in your office, and I beg to apply for the same. I have passed the matriculation examination and studied up to the FA, but was prevented from pursuing my further studies owing to several untoward circumstances. I have, however, been devoting all my time to mathematics and developing subject. I can say I am quite confident I can do justice to my work if I am appointed to the post. I therefore beg to the request that you will be good enough to confer the appointment on me." This was a letter written by Ramanujan on 9th February 1912. So attached to his application was a recommendation by E.W. Middlemast, a maths professor at the Presidency College, who wrote that Ramanujan was a young man of quite exceptional capacity in mathematics. And 3 weeks after he applied, on 1st March, Ramanujan learned that he had been accepted as a class 3, grade 4 accounting clerk, making 30 rupees per month. At his office, Ramanujan easily and quickly completed the work he was given and spent his spare time doing mathematical research. Ramanujan's boss, St. Francis Spring, and S. Narayan Iyer, a colleague who was also treasurer of the Indian Mathematical Society, encouraged Ramanujan in his mathematical pursuits. In the spring of 1913, Narayan Iyer, Ramchandra Rao, and E.W. Middlemast tried to present Ramanujan's work to British mathematicians. M.J.M. Hill of University College, London, commented that Ramanujan's papers were riddled with holes. He said that although Ramanujan had a taste for mathematics and some ability, he lacked the necessary education background and foundation to be accepted by mathematicians. Although Hill did not offer to take Ramanujan on as a student, he gave thorough and serious professional advice on his work. With the help of the friends, Ramanujan drafted letters to the leading mathematicians at Cambridge University. The first 2 professors, H.F. Baker and E.W. Hobson, returned Ramanujan papers without comment. On 16th January 1913, Ramanujan wrote to G.H. Hardy, coming from an unknown mathematician. The 9 pages of mathematics made Hardy initially viewed Ramanujan's manuscripts as a possible fraud. Hardy recognized some of the Ramanujan's formulae, but others seemed scarcely possible to believe. One of the theorems Hardy found amazing was on the bottom of page 3. And Hardy was also impressed by some Ramanujan's other work relating to infinite series. So first result has already been determined by G. Bohr in 1859. The second was new to Hardy, and he was derived from a class of functions called hypergeometric series, which had first been researched by Euler and Gauss. Hardy found these results much more intriguing than Gauss' work on integrals. After seeing Ramanujan's theorem on continued fractions on the last page of the manuscript, Hardy said, "Theorems defeated me completely. I had never seen anything in the least like them before. And they must be true, because if they were not true, no one would have the imagination to invent them." Hardy asked a colleague, J.E. Littlewood, to take a look at the papers. Littlewood was amazed by Ramanujan's genius. After discussing the papers with Littlewood, Hardy concluded that the letters were certainly the most remarkable I have received, and the Ramanujan was a mathematician of the highest quality, a man of altogether exceptional originality and power. One colleague, E.H. Neville, later remarked that not one theorem could have been set in the most advanced mathematical examination in the world. On 8th February 1913, Hardy wrote Ramanujan a letter expressing interest in his work, adding that it was essential that I should see the proofs of some of your assertions. So before his letter arrived in Madras during the third week of February, Hardy contacted the Indian office to plan for Ramanuja's trip to Cambridge. Secretary Arthur Davis of Advisory Committee for Indian Students met Ramanujan to discuss the overseas trip. In accordance with his Brahmin upbringing, Ramanujan refused to leave the country to go to foreign land. It is one of the customs or traditions that Brahmins should not leave their country and especially serve their own country land. Meanwhile, he sent Hardy a letter packed with theorems, writing, "I have found a friend in you who views my labor sympathetically." To supplement Hardy's endorsement, Gilbert Walker, a former mathematical lecturer at Trinity College, Cambridge, looked at Ramanujan's work and expressed amazement, urging the young man to spend time at Cambridge. As a result of Walker's endorsement, B. Hanmantrao, a mathematics professor at an engineering college, invited Ramanujan's colleague Narayan Iyer to a meeting of the Board of Studies in Mathematics to discuss what we can do for Srinivas Ramanujan. The board agreed to grant Ramanujan a monthly research scholarship of 75 rupees for the next 2 years at the University of Madras. So while he was engaged as a research student, Ramanujan continued to submit papers to the Journal of Indian Mathematical Society. In one instance, Iyer submitted some of the Ramanujan's theorems on summation of series to the journal, adding, "The following theorem is due to S. Ramanujan, the mathematics student of Madras University." Later in November, British professor Edward B. Ross of Madras Christian College, whom Ramanujan had met a few years before, stormed into his class one day with his eyes glowing, asking the students, "Does Ramanujan know Polish?" The reason that was in one paper, Ramanujan has anticipated the work of a Polish mathematician whose paper had just arrived in the day's mail. In his quarterly papers, Ramanujan drew up theorems to make definite integrals more easily solvable. Working off Giuliano Frullian's 1821 integral theorem, Ramanujan formulated generalizations that could be made to evaluate formally unyielding integrals. So Hardy's correspondence with Ramanujan soared after Ramanujan refused to come to England. Hardy enlisted a colleague lecturing in Madras, E.H. Neville, to mentor and bring Ramanujan to England. Neville asked Ramanujan why he would not go to Cambridge. Ramanujan apparently had now accepted the proposal, and Neville said Ramanujan needed no converting and his parents' opposition has been withdrawn. And apparently, Ramanujan mother had a vivid dream in which the family goddess, the deity of Namagiri, commanded her to stand no longer between her son and fulfillment of his purpose. On 17th March 1914, Ramanujan traveled to England by ship, leaving his wife to stay with her parents in India. So Ramanujan departed from Madras aboard the SS Nevesa on 17th March 1914 when he disembarked in London on 14th April. Neville was waiting for him with a car. 4 days later, Neville took him to the house on Churchton Road in Cambridge. Ramanujan immediately began his work with Littlewood and Hardy. After 6 weeks, Ramanujan moved out to Neville's house and took up residence on the Weville's coach, a 5-minute walk from Hardy's room. Hardy and Littlewood began to look at Ramanujan's notebooks. Hardy had already received 120 theorems from Ramanujan in the first 2 letters, but there were many more results and theorems in the notebooks. Hardy saw that some were wrong, others had already been discovered, and the rest are new breakthroughs. So Ramanujan left a deep impression on Hardy and Littlewood. Littlewood commented, "I can believe that he is at least a Jacobi," while Hardy said he can compare him only with Euler or Jacobi. Ramanujan spent nearly 5 years in Cambridge, collaborating with Hardy and Littlewood, and published part of his findings there. Hardy and Ramanujan had highly contrasting personalities. Their collaboration was a clash of different cultures, beliefs, and working styles. In previous few decades, the foundation of mathematics has come into question and needed for mathematically rigorous proofs recognized. Hardy was an atheist and an apostle of proof and mathematical rigor, whereas Ramanujan was a deeply religious man who relied very strongly on his intuition and insights. Hardy tried his best to fill the gaps in Ramanujan's education and to mentor him in the need for formal proofs to support his results without hindering his inspiration, a conflict that neither found easy. So Ramanujan was awarded a Bachelor's of Arts by Research degree, the predecessor of the PhD degree, in March 1916 for his work in highly composite numbers, sections of the first part of which had been published in the preceding year in the Proceedings of the London Mathematical Society. The paper was more than 50 pages long and proved various properties of such numbers. Hardy disliked this topic area, but remarked that though it engaged with what he called the backwater of mathematics, in it Ramanujan displayed extraordinary mastery over the algebra of inequalities. On 6th December 1917, Ramanujan was elected to the London Mathematical Society. On 2nd May 1918, he was elected as a Fellow of Royal Society, the second Indian admitted after Adrasir Crusade in 1841. At age 31, Ramanujan was one of the youngest fellows in the Royal Society history, and he was elected for his investigation in elliptic functions and the theory of numbers. On 13th October 1918, he was the first Indian to be elected a Fellow of Trinity College, Cambridge. So Ramanujan had numerous health problems throughout his life. His health worsened in England. Possibly he was also less resilient due to difficulty of keeping to the strict dietary requirements of religion, being Brahmin, and therefore because of wartime rationing in 1914 and 18. He was diagnosed with tuberculosis and a severe vitamin deficiency and confined to a sanatorium. In 1919, he returned to Kumbakonam, Madras Presidency, and in 1920, he died at the age of 32. After his death, his brother Tirunarayana compiled Ramanujan's remaining handwritten notes, consisting of formula on singular moduli, hypergeometric series, and continued fractions. So Ramanujan's widow, Srimati Janaki Ammal, moved to Bombay in 1931. She returned to Madras and settled in Triplicane, where she supported herself on a pension from Madras University and income from tailoring. In 1950, she adopted a son, W. Narayan, who eventually became an officer of the State Bank of India and raised a family. In her later years, she was granted a lifetime pension from Ramanujan's former employer, the Madras Port Trust, and pensions from, among others, the Indian National Science Academy and the state governments of Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, and West Bengal. She continued to cherish Ramanujan's memory and was active in the efforts to increase his public recognition. Prominent mathematics, including George Andrews, Bruce C. Bent, and Bela Bulobas, made it a point to visit her while in India. She died at her Triplicane residence in 1994. So a 1994 analysis of Ramanujan medical records and symptoms by Dr. D.A.B. Young concluded that his medical symptoms, including the past relapses, fevers, and hepatic conditions, were much closer to those resulting from hepatic amoebiasis, an illness then widespread in Madras, than tuberculosis. He had 2 episodes of dysentery before he left India. When not properly treated, amoebic dysentery can lie dormant for years and lead to hepatic amoebiasis, so whose diagnosis was not then well established. At that time, the properly diagnosed amoebiasis was a treatable and often curable disease. British soldiers who contracted it during the First World War were being successfully cured for amoebiasis around the time Ramanujan left England. So this untreated medical symptoms might have caused his death. So looking at the personality and his spiritual life, Ramanujan has been described as a person of somewhat shy and quiet disposition, a dignified man with pleasant manners. He lived a simple life at Cambridge, and Ramanujan's first Indian biographers described him as a rigorously orthodox Hindu. He credited his acumen to his family goddess, Namagiri Tayar, goddess Mahalakshmi of his Namakkal, and he looked to her for inspiration in his work and said he dreamt of blood drops that symbolized her concert, Narsimha. Later, he had visions of scrolls of complex mathematical content unfolding before his eyes. He often said, "An equation for me has no meaning unless it expresses a thought of God." Hardy cites Ramanujan as remarking that all religions seemed equally true to him. Hardy further argued that Ramanujan's religious belief had to be romanticized by Westerners and overstated in the reference to his belief, not practiced by Indian biographers. At the same time, he marked on Ramanujan's strict vegetarianism. Similarly, in an interview with Frontline, Bent said many people falsely promulgate mystical powers to Ramanujan's mathematical thinking. It is not true. He has meticulously recorded every result in his 3 notebooks for the speculating that Ramanujan worked out intermediate results on the slate that he could not afford paper to record more permanently. And there were 4 commemorative postal stamps that were released on Sri Ramanuja in 1962, 15 NP. In 2011, 5 rupees. In 2012, 5 rupees stamp. And 2016, 4 rupees stamp on Sri Ramanujan. Commemoration by India Post. We can talk many things about Sri Ram, Srinivas Ramanujan, Iyengar, but due to paucity of time, we shall conclude this. And today, as already mentioned, it is also National Short Person Day. Yesterday we discussed, and today is also Guru Gobind Singh in Patna, Bihar. He was born. So it is his Jayanti, it is birthday. So with this, we shall conclude here, because we already exceeded time. So thank you everyone for joining us. See you all tomorrow at the same time. Before leaving, kindly fill up the feedback form. In spite of all the hardships, why we were going through all these details is see how much hardships they face, but with their dedication, commitment, and perseverance, and greatest will and interest, he achieved wonders. So we should not get worried about small things that keep bothering us. But if we are sincerely dedicated, committed, and putting our efforts into that, we can always achieve success at the end. Feedback form has been raised. Quickly fill up the feedback form before you leave the platform. So see you all tomorrow at 6 o'clock. Take care. Good night.